Hey folks, what I wanted to go over back pain today. What's the common advice, okay, and kind of why that's the common advice, and hopefully that makes sense. And if you've got back pain, maybe it will inspire you to do something. So I just need to draw a little picture. We all have a picture. Pictures paint 1,000 words. So I learned this kind of diagram from the chiropractor that I used to work with down at Total Balance Clinic in Hemel. If you're local, great place to go if you've got back pain. So let's say that's the hips. Okay, hips are down here. We've got a spine coming up here. Ribs are there. Okay, and then your upper back and neck. Okay, let's draw on some abdominal muscles, and we'll stick on some thigh. Okay, so the knees down here. Okay, so kneecap, that would be the kneecap. Okay, so that's obviously the front of the body, that's the back. So should have done this in other colors, but hey, we're here now. So lower back pain here. Okay, that's normally where we experience lower back pain, the lower back, right? So we need to kind of think of why that happens. Now, a common postural problem is that our lower back, let's come back to, let's go to black. Okay, our lower back goes that way. So we arch too much through our lower back when we stand. Now, we now need to go and kind of think about why that is happening. So the muscles here are too strong. The muscles here are too weak. Okay, that's supposed to be a minus. Let's delete one on. Also, the muscle here, the thigh, might be too strong. The muscle here, and possibly the glutes as well, too weak. Okay, this is obviously a very simplistic view of it. Okay, but it gives you the basics. Okay, it gives you kind of what's going on. Let's do some blue. Okay, so there's a muscle runs through here. Okay, it's called the hip. It's one of the hip flexors, or two of the hip flexors. Okay, I'll draw the other one on in a moment. So there's one that runs through here. This is called the psoas. Okay, fancy Latin name, hip flexor. It attaches to the spine. We've got another hip flexor that runs from the front of the hip down into the thigh bone, and we also have one of our quad muscles which runs down through, essentially through the kneecap and down into the shin bone. Okay, that is involved in this as well. So these are commonly, so if we call those this color hip flexors. Now, I'm not going to say that they're strong or weak, okay, because chances are they're actually weak. Okay, so it's not a case of strong and weak, it's a case of short or long, and in this case they are short. So let's do another color here. Abdominals, let's get them in pink. Hamstrings and glutes. Okay, so we have abs, glutes, glute max, the big one at the back there, and hamstrings. These are often long. In this particular presentation, okay, so lower back pain where the lower back is too arched. Okay, it's a very, very common postural presentation when it comes to back pain. It's not the case for everyone, so this might not be apt for you. Okay, you might need to go and see a therapist for this just to get a better understanding of it. Okay, so let's maybe add some other colors. So let's go yellow. Okay, so we're now looking at what's weak muscles. So weak are normally the core. Okay, so the rectus abdominis, the six-pack muscles, generally going to be weak. Okay, the other core muscles, the TVA, the external obliques, the internal obliques, those muscles in there are likely to be weak as well. Hamstrings are likely to be weak. believe it or not, the psoas and the iliacus are likely to be weak. We don't really use them that much. Okay, we spent, and I'll explain that a little bit in more detail in a moment. Okay, these are likely to be weak. Your glutes are likely to be weak. What's likely to be strong? Okay, let's go purple for strong. Okay, quads, they are likely to be strong. Again, it's not guaranteed, it's not necessarily true. Okay, but in a lot of cases this is true. Okay, and the lower back is likely to be strong. So strong muscles, weak muscle, weak muscle, weak muscle. Okay, the hip flexors are likely to be weak because of our daily habits, and if you do exercise, how we exercise. We don't really exercise the hip flexors when we try and exercise. So I'll stand up. I've explained, you may or may not have seen previous videos on this. Okay, so if I'm in a sitting position, so pretend I'm sitting in a chair and underneath me is a chair. I am in this position for a lot of the day. So at this point, I might draw another picture. Let's draw another picture. So you, rather than looking at me, let's clear all drawings. So let's go back to red. Let's draw my hips on there. Let's draw my dodgy back and get my ribs in. Okay, this time I'm sitting down. Okay, got really skinny calves, skinny legs. Okay, shell, if I remember what my colors were, I probably won't. Light blue, I think I put the hip flexors in. So the hip flexors at this point are now short. Okay, so we are training them because we spend a lot of time in our day sitting, okay, because most of us work behind a desk, and when we maybe we drive to work as well, so sitting. When we get home, we'll sit on the sofa and watch TV. So we might be sitting for 10, 11, 12 hours a day. That's a lot of sitting down. So we're training our body to go, right, I am now really good at sitting. Okay, so this hip flexor muscle, no, we've gone back to red there. This hip flexor muscle there is short, okay, and this hip flexor muscle there is short as well. That's the rectus femoris that runs down the top center of your thigh muscle, okay, at the front. So that's all short. The abdominals, okay, kind of they're stretched, okay. In this case, they're stretched. But again, they're weak. We're not using them, okay. So we're sitting down, not using them. The lower back, however, we are using. Okay, so we're using that, and that's working overtime. Okay, because that's trying to hold you up. Okay, because this area is basically just switched off. This is switched off. This is now stretched. So stretched. So yellow is stretched. It's long, but it's also not being used. Hamstrings in this position are actually short but weak. Short but not being used. Okay. So kind of. So this end of it is being stretched, and this end is being shortened. So it's kind of similar here. Okay, this end is being shortened, and this end is being stretched. So it's kind of half one and 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. That's what I was trying to say on those guys. So yeah, our pelvis is just in the wrong position because of the way we've trained our muscles to sit. Okay, so if we're sitting down for 12 hours a day, we've told our muscles, okay, this is the position we want to be in. This is how we're training our body to be. And then when we try and stand up, everything kind of stays in the same place. So now I'm standing up. The psoas is still wants to remain short. Done that one badly. Undo that one. Psoas wants to remain short. So it pulls, even though it's weak, it's trained to not stretch. So it doesn't stretch. So it's weak, but it's not flexible. So for me, this is the key. The psoas muscle is the key. You may have heard it before, okay? But what people are often told is to stretch it. I'm going to say something completely different. You need to strengthen that guy. That muscle is weak. And if you stretch a weak muscle, it's only going to get weaker. Cannot do it. Yes, you need to strengthen the core. Yes, you probably need to stretch the quads because they're strong and short. You do not need to stretch the hamstring because it is often weak and short, okay, or weak and tight, I should say. It's not necessarily short. And I'll explain that a little bit here. So if the pelvis is tilted that way, so let's draw a point. So that point should be there, okay? So that's the very front bony bits of your hips. Okay? When the back and hips are in this position, that bony bit, if you feel it, shifts down. So what happens here, there's a bony bit here where your hamstrings attach, that shifts higher up. Okay, so you get the feeling of stretch in the hamstrings. They're not short, they are being pulled in the wrong place because our posture is incorrect, because they're weak and they're not pulling the pelvis back into the correct position. So we need to strengthen the hip flexors, the psoas in particular, psoas and iliacus. Okay, it's two muscles commonly called the spelling wise, okay, iliopsoas. Okay, because they actually combine at the thigh. Okay, so there's two muscles, so one that attaches onto the spine, one attaches onto the pelvis, and then they combine into the thigh bone. So they join at the thigh bone. So these need strengthening. Bam. Okay, they need extra strength. After you've strengthened them, maybe they still need stretching, but they need strengthening first. Okay, flexibility comes from strong muscles. Tightness comes from weak muscles. So if you want to get a strong lower back, okay, more flexibility in your lower back, reduce back pain. I'm pointing at my screen, but you can't see where I'm pointing. I'm pointing, stretch, wrong. Do not stretch them. Okay, strengthen them first. Strengthen them for 6 weeks, strengthen them for 8 weeks, and then move on to a more flexibility-based program. Okay, strengthen the hamstrings, strengthen the glutes, strengthen the core. Okay, focus on those areas. Ones you want to stretch will be the quads, and generally stretch the lower back. But if you're sorting out these ones with strength, the lower back problem will go away. Focus on psoas, these guys, for strength, and glutes for strength. Okay, so that's stuff like glute bridge, okay, squats, deadlift, okay, but if you're not feeling it in your glutes, something's going wrong. Okay, and then stretch quads, stretch the thigh, okay, the front of the leg, okay, just for clarity, stretch the front of the leg. Okay, there will be more going on in the upper body, but that would be too much for me to go through in one video. Okay, there will be more going on up there. Okay, there's going to be tight muscles, there's going to be weak muscles up there as well. They are all common problems because we are desk bound for the most part. Most of us are desk bound and we don't out train those problems. Okay, and if we aren't trying to out train them, we're often not doing it quite right. Okay, we're stretching weak muscles. Okay, which is completely the wrong thing to do. You're just making a problem worse when you stretch weak muscles. Strengthen first, then stretch. That's not in one session. That's maybe a few weeks of strengthening first and stretch other stuff, okay? But I need to go through that maybe another time. So that's what we got to do. Hopefully I haven't confused the hell out of you, but that's it. Cool, I'm going to stop.